Hello there, good to see you again. Graham Corden is a stand up comic, stroke actor, stroke musical actor, stroke a whole lot of things. Um, but he does a kind of talk show in America, and sometimes I tune into stuff online on YouTube. Excuse me. And he was highlighting this thing where um, you phone up and people will tell you jokes for free. And he was highlighting the fact that he thought this was a really good idea. And, lots of the news at the moment is pretty not funny. And it strikes me as somebody who's doing a thought for the day every day, there's this kind of quandary. Must it be serious? Must it be Christian? We are called to repentance. That is what the pandemic is all about. We're called to look at the coronavirus like a mirror and a lens and all that stuff, as in all of that's true. But when you do something every single day, what I realize is there has to be some light and shade. And so Graham Corden got some comedians on to tell jokes. And because it was a kind of family thing, they had to tell jokes that were family friendly, which for a lot of the stand up comedians on YouTube would be a new experience. So one guy had said, what did the first hat say to the second hat? The first hat said, I'm just going to hang back, you go on ahead. Now it's that kind of it's kind of puns all the time. And then, bless her cotton socks, my mother, she obviously feels I need some cheering up because she sent me it's a whole bunch of stuff here. But I realise it's pun after pun after pun. My mate is so into his technology, he has just got his mobile phone implanted in his throat. When his mum finds out, she is going to wring his neck. I quite like that. I mean, it's silly, but I quite like that. There are many unusual phobias. Um, my main one is a fear of elevators. It's so extreme, I basically take steps to avoid it. Again, really silly, but I like it. Um, I'm generally well educated, but my one weak spot is my knowledge of Greek mythology, which is, if you will, my Achilles heel. Yeah, I like that one. So that's number. Okay, where are we? Oh yes, back to the book reviews and what have you been reading? This guy's saying I'm reading, despite the fact that I'm blind, I'm still getting into lots of horror stories. I'm reading a horror story in Braille right now, and I just know something's going to bad happen. I can just feel it. Yeah, I'm sure you can. Um, what else? There's another one. There's a few actually. Oh, there we are. Again, this one is, I think you need to explain this to the children, but this is still, see, it has the genuine gross out value. At Kilmarnock Sheriff Court, with multiple accused in the court case, and therefore multiple lawyers, had one situation that was just glorious. One lawyer stood up and asked, as the witness in court had nothing to do with his particular client, would it be acceptable if he were excused to go to the toilet? When the sheriff nodded his agreement, a second lawyer jumped up and asked, can I be associated with my learned friend's motion? Now again, that's disgusting, but it's funny. It's really good. just to bring us back to the pandemic and, death, despair, gloom. How many people can identify with what you're about to hear just now? A native of Sutherland had to move to the Central Belt and found herself in the exotic metropolis that is Glasgow. And as a consequence of her upbringing, she looked forward to the delivery each week of a hallowed publication called the Northern Times. And if you're from up north, you'll know exactly that particular publication. But it's just the local newspaper. But one particular week, she had read the whole thing from front to back and then cast it aside in disgust, saying, I don't even know a living soul in the death notices. So sad. And for those of you who like to keep it contemporary and want to stay focused on coronavirus humour, yes, there is such a thing. I'm tempted to say a couple of church WhatsApp applications would be probably better, but it was this is the best one I've had. Coronavirus joke. We're now scientists have now come out firmly against hydroxychloroquine as a potential positive drug with regard to the pandemic, because it's now being labelled a gateway drug. You start on that and you'll be injecting Domestos straight into your system within a very, very short period of time. Now, again, some people, as soon as it's political, that's not, you shouldn't be doing that. But I just think that's really funny. Then more coronavirus humour. It transpires that the coronavirus on a flat plastic surface can actually survive for 3 days. So the immediate impact is quite simple. If you do live in Hollywood, do not touch any woman's face, just in case. Now again, that's cruel, but it's funny. And the thing that all of this is about, one single thing. Is this something I shouldn't be doing on a thought for the day? Because it should all be Martin Lloyd-Jones sermons from 1939 or serious stuff, because what's happening in terms of America and the riots, that's all serious. I think we're actually supposed to find the light and find the shade. In other words, you don't run away from anything, but there are times when it's just actually quite good to have a laugh, especially at times like this. Now, just in case you're worried, this is not going to be a recurring theme, but it did strike me. There's a picture, you can Google it. If you go into Google Images and just type in laughing Jesus, there's this picture that's online, which just, as the title suggests, it shows Jesus laughing. And it poses the question, would Jesus have been serious all the time? He came to do a serious thing, as in he was clearly somebody who was earnestly focused on the task that his Father in heaven was giving him. Does that mean he never laughed and joked with the disciples? So one of the things that I think we have to come to terms with, if we're actually seeking to work out what's the response of a Christian in the time of a pandemic, in terms of how we should respond to God, or respond to ourselves, or how should we interpret it, it should include the kind of call to repentance. Get your act together, reassess your life. This is a time of reassessment. Or it's look at it as if it was a mirror, look at it as if it was a lens, analyze who you are. But it's also about recognizing sometimes the people in your life, they just need some light relief. I know I do. And so I don't know if we'll be doing this again. I'm not sure. But the point is, it's not a filler. I know what I'm doing tomorrow. It's not like I ran out of things to say. It does pose the question, is what is required for you today not necessarily to have some deep, profound theological insight to share with somebody who's having a tough time? Is it just maybe you want to relate a story to them? Or there's a really good one online with, children being homeschooled and parents saying, it's quite difficult. And then you get one of those pictures where it's like, I find parenting at home very, very easy. And you get this picture of the mother working on a Zoom meeting with the children, with the child taped with duct tape to the floor, incapable of movement. In other words, sometimes it's just lighten people's load in their particular point of need. And get to the point where you address the fact that they need Christ as well. What do you need to do today? Who do you need to speak to? To whom do you need to leave them with a smile on their face? If you've got any jokes you want to pass along, then text me or leave them in the comment box, or fine. But it's just that question of what would Jesus do? I don't think he would have preached the Sermon on the Mount every day for 3 years. I think there would have been time for rest and recuperation. I think there would have been time for a laugh. Go with God, but don't just go with God because God goes with you. Go with God with a smile on your face and let folks know that the fact that you're going with God makes you happy. See you tomorrow. Bye.